Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Sebastien Ng. Sebastien is a recent contact of mine, a guy I've connected with, the last couple of months. He works for a business called Fronius International as the national sales manager here on Australia. He's based in Melbourne. I know his business are doing some great stuff, and he's leading the team in an exceptional way. So I'm looking forward to having a chat to him today, finding out, um, going into some more detail in terms of what Fronius is doing in the market and how he's leading up and heading the sales team and also getting to know him as well on a bit more personal level, find out what makes him tick, and really get stuck into it. So, Sebastian, with that introduction, mate, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Thanks for the introduction, Joe. I think looking back at our introduction from the beginning, I'm so glad I didn't ignore when you reached out. Usually, on LinkedIn, on different platforms, you get a lot of requests, but I had this feeling that we're going to achieve some stuff together. So yeah, I'm very happy that to be on your podcast. I remember we were joking about it the first time we spoke. I'm like, hey, what is this mic that you have there? What are you
No,
guys? What are
no,
you doing? And then you said, oh, we're gonna get you on the podcast. I think you tried to sell it to me in a way, right? And I'm like, oh, this guy, he's very good at it.
well, I
But
wasn't
yeah,
joking. Here we are.
yeah, here we are and doing the actual podcast. But thanks for having me, and looking forward definitely for the chat with you.
Absolutely, yeah. Great to have you on. So, but if we start in the present, your current role at Fronius, I'd love for you to tell the audience about what you're doing, a bit more about Fronius as a business, what you're doing, how you're helping your customers, and I know you're doing some great things in the sustainability space. So over to you, mate. Tell me, I guess, the nature of your role and the work you're doing.
All right. So basically, I'm the national sales manager, and I heads up the sales engineer. So those are the we call it business developer manager, as an example, depending on in which field you are. And our goal is basically create those relationship with our customers who are installers, electricians, and from there we want to grow this relationship. And of course, building a relationship is very basic as a sentence, but there's a lot of things which happens behind the scene. So what we do is relationship management quite a lot with them. So I head this particular department, and I work closely with the current managing director with like sales strategies and as an example. So maybe if I need to summarize, maybe for the people listening to us, who is Fronius, where it all started, and try not to do like a sales pitch for you. But our company is based in Europe, in Austria. Sorry for my accent, but yeah, it's in Europe, not Australia. And basically, it started in 1945 by a man called Mr. Gunther Fronius, and his vision was to create long-term value for the world. And of course, again, it's very broad, but what we want to create there is a sustainable environment, a sustainable business. So, as you are aware, here in Australia, what we are doing is basically selling solar inverters, right? But Fronius doesn't only do solar inverters. We also do welding machines and also battery chargings for forklifts. And one thing that I'm a big fan of, and maybe we can touch base a bit later on this, I can talk ages about this, but welding machines, we are kind of the Rolls Royce of welding machines. So just to give you an example, um, our friend Elon Musk, right, making cars, making spaceships, so they uses our welders for their spaceship, as an example, and also, if you're a big fan of cars, you know the Mercedes, which has like the doors, which opens like a butterfly in a way. That's something that we've worked also on. So the welding, I think, is so great, and the technology that we're working on also is pretty exceptional in its own way. So ask any welders, furnace, they will know what we do. And but of course, here in Australia, we do only the solar side of things with the business unit that we have. So we sell inverters to wholesalers who sell it to electricians, solar installers, solar retailers. That's what we do.
So yeah, the sustainability piece, your products, simply if you could put it in a simple terms, how do they actually help the environment? How does an inverter help save energy or the welding equipment? How does that actually work as a sustainability piece?
Yeah. So basically, if you look at, let's say, a solar system, you have your panels, right? And those panels produces energy. The thing is, you can't use it directly with your everyday appliances. You need an inverter to convert the energy so that you can use for your microwave and all those devices, right? Well, of course, when you have the panels, when you have the inverter, it creates clean energy, right? The question is for us is how do we make sure we make the cleanest energy possible? And what do I mean by this is we have like a saying here is we don't want to just create a kilowatt hour. So kilowatt hour represent energy. We want to create the cleanest kilowatt hour. And how do we do this? So let me ask you a question, Joe. How many cans of beers do you drink usually within a year?
In a year? Oh,
Roughly, roughly.
I don't know. It may be over 100. I don't know.
Over 100.
I don't know.
That's a good amount. So one thing that we've worked on with our product is, especially in Europe, I think the way that a lot of businesses operate compared to Australia or different part of the world is a bit different. Sustainability is at the core of a lot of businesses. So to give you an example, one of our new unit, we had to design it in a way where we can use a lot of recycling material. So a heat sink, which basically is used to cool the inverter, we use 100% recycled aluminum. It doesn't stop here. We also make sure that other part of the packaging can be recycled. So just to give you an example, one of our, let's say, 5 kilowatt inverter, you need to basically recycle 324 cans of beers to be able to make one of those heat sink. So it's a lot of beers that you need to drink, right?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
make sure that you can do it. So you can see that sustainability is very important for us. And I think the other part which is not discussed, it's a lot about environment, right? When I say sustainability, the first thing comes to people's mind is, okay, we need to make sure we do something good for the environment. But one thing that is not spoken a lot is about sustainable business, right? How do you make sure that your business is sustainable? And that's something that, for example, Fronius really work quite a lot on, and we have our core values to be able to achieve this goal.
That goal is obviously part of Fronius, as you've just said, it's one of your core values to be that sustainable business and encourage that with your customers and the work you're doing. From a personal point though, from yourself, have you always been passionate about sustainability and where does that sort of passion come from? And on top of that, one additional question: how much does that drive you in your day-to-day work when you're out there doing, speaking to customers, selling your products?
I will try to remember every bit and
Sorry,
pieces of the question. So, all right. So let's start with where it all started. Yeah,
yeah,
starting at the beginning. Well, this is very interesting. Back in the days, I was not really focusing too much on about sustainability. And then when I did my degree, so I did a degree in advanced manufacturing and mechatronics engineering. I know it sounds like a fancy name, but it's basically mechatronics engineering. One of the course or the focus is basically using additive manufacturing. So what is this? Is 3D printing, right? And 3D printing nowadays is becoming more and more common. Everyone can see some good benefits of it. And one of the most, let's say, important part of it is how much material you can save. And I'm like, okay, that's very, very interesting. So in uni, we had so many projects about it. I'm like, okay, so this can really help the world. And also, for example, like some raw material, which is not finite, how can we make sure that we have enough on a long period of time. So that's where it all started. And funny enough, in my course, I remember one of the lecturers was mentioning about welding machine again. We're going back to the welders, and there was like a picture of Fronius innovating with like their way of welding. So that's where it all started. Then throughout my uni days, I had to find an internship. So found Fronius and started to work in the repair center. So I started to learn from those guys what they are doing. Of course, when you do an interview, you go and do some research, but hearing it from the people here was a different feeling. You came to our office, right? You can see this feeling, those values that we have is very different. And they were talking about how the business started, which is basically after the Second World War. People were throwing their batteries away in the car because they were not driving it every day, right? It's not like what's happening right now. And looking at the values and how we progressed, because maybe I will go a bit in details in this section is because if you look at our business unit, welding and battery charging takes a lot of energy, right? We're not really giving, we're just using stuff. Then one of the son of basically Mr. Gunther Fronius had this idea saying, "Hey, we need to give back. We're using so much." So you can see the thinking, and I got really inspired when I heard all the speeches from the managing director, from the CEO of the company, from the sales directors of the company. I think that's where it all started to build. And now, if you ask my friends, like day in, day out, I just talk about what we're doing in terms of sustainability, why, let's say, having a solar system is important. I feel like it is engraved in me now.
So it's something you didn't always have, but it has really developed in you.
Exactly.
Is that something you've seen, say, when you're talking to your customers, or that I guess the adoption of the technology and the adoption of what you're selling? How receptive are they, and can you see them? Is there a change? Are they becoming more receptive to the sustainability, the technologies that you're putting out there in the market?
Well, that's a very good one. In terms of sustainability, again, when we talk to our customers, the first thing that they think is only doing something good for the environment. So
Yeah.
we cover a lot of different points, and then they can see the bigger picture. But one thing that we've seen, especially in Australia, is it didn't really resonate with a lot of people at the start, but now we can see that people are asking way more questions about this. Maybe one thing, also to be quite transparent with you, not everyone is doing something for to be sustainable, right? So it is a bit of a spectrum of different type of companies out there. I would say the closest to us, which we call them Fronius Solution Partners, those are very driven by the vision that we have. That's why
Yeah.
we are partners. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. But now I want to get tactical. I want to talk sales in terms of what you're doing, out there when you're speaking to customers. You mentioned at the start of this chat, a lot of your role is that relationship piece with the customers, the clients you're dealing with. Yourself and the sales team that you're heading up. What's your sort of approach to, say, building a relationship with a customer and maintaining it long term?
Well, that's quite a big one for us. Day in, day out, we talk about this with the guys, and they usually say, yes, we need to build a relationship. And usually I ask them, what do you mean by building a relationship? And they said, oh, it's basically going and visiting them and doing training with them. And then I say, what else? And I think that's where it's very interesting from the feedback that I get from we call them sales engineers when they build this relationship and what they need to do, it's such again a spectrum of like what we need to do. And what do I mean by that is basically we need to be able to talk to the managing director. We need to be able to talk to the owner, to the sales guy, to the tech guy, to the service guy, to the admin guy, and to the installers. And you can see those are different personalities. And if you talk the same way to everyone, of course, it's going to be very hard to build this connection with them. So the first thing is what we're doing is getting to know all those people, getting to know what their needs, and how do we work together. It's not like, hey, you do it or we do everything. It's basically sitting down with them, spending time with them, and really understanding what they need. So I'll give you an example. We have some big accounts where, let's say, the sales team, we caught up with them, and suddenly we're like, oh, the sales are not really good, the leads are not really good. Sitting down with them, we saw that the leads also were not coming in as often as what they wanted. So we said, okay, how about we get their marketing team and our marketing team to sit down now in a big group, in a big session, and what do we need to do to promote them? Also, looking at the sales team, is there any gap in the conversation also, or when they're selling, as an example? So we really need to look at this overall picture and every part of the business which needs to participate in doing the sales or making the sales happen.
So it's a little bit cliche, but it's really about how am I adding value to them? You're not just
Exactly.
having the meeting for the sake of having the meeting. Or I haven't spoken to those guys in a couple of months. Better go see them, kind of thing. It's like, right,
Exactly.
what am I bringing to the table? And also, it sounds like you're getting your name. So those customers that right down from the managing director to the all the different stakeholders you mentioned, they know Sebastien from Fronius is the go-to person. Is that what your sort of mission is for the sales team?
Exactly. That
Yeah.
when they think about Fronius, they know who is their account manager. So, yeah, of course, I think you know that, for example, at the moment, I'm getting a bit out of the picture, but it's the guys now who needs to go out. So that's where the leadership side of things needs to come from me, but letting them go out and they are the names out there.
Yeah, gotcha. So I want to go back. We've talked about what Fronius is doing, your role a little bit. I want to talk about your personal journey. You touched upon it. It sounds really interesting, by the way. You got an internship at
Yeah.
university with Fronius, and then here we are. You know, many years down the track, you're national sales manager. Talk to me about that journey. How how did that all sort of come about? Because I know you worked as an engineer, an application engineer for the business. Now you're in sales. How did that all play out?
I mean, that's one of my favorite parts to talk about, especially when I meet new people. Um, Well, actually, where it all started, as I said, was with an internship. And to graduate, basically, I had to do some engineering experience. So when I applied, there was basically we have a repair center in Melbourne, and that's where all the units come and it needs to be repaired. And the guys had a big queue, right? So that's why they needed someone to come and basically repair the inverters, right?
Okay, yeah.
So basically, for 3 months, what I did is cleaning the inverter and changing boards. That's what I spent like 3 months. And the guys, there was only two guys at the time, and my job was just taking the inverter, cleaning, changing boards. And they were very impressed, I think, within a week. I just had like a pipe because I was not allowed to go and test the stuff on the test the inverters on the unit because you need to have more experience, which is fair enough. And my let's say my background, I really like to go and do stuff, learn stuff, and they were like, no, 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 you don't have experience. I'm like, okay. So I just piled up all those inverters, and from there they saw that I have, let's say, good work ethics, and they said, okay, look, we're gonna take you part-time for a year. So I didn't graduate yet. Part-time for a year, I was working with the service department, with the repair center, and also I was doing side projects. So some of the let's say things which were not done because we didn't have enough capacity, and some ideas that some people had, they were like, oh, we don't have time. Do you have time to do it? Again, I try to do it the best that I can, the fastest that I can, and they were pretty happy about it. So just before I finished graduation, I'm not from Australia, I'm from Mauritius, and coming here for my studies, I was a bit worried not having a job, a full-time job, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do uh, from there? Then that's where there was an offer just before I graduated. They said, look, we're getting a lot of calls in our tech support. Would you like to help? We're gonna try first. So I tried. They were pretty happy. A lot of installers calling saying, how do we do this? How do we do that? I went there for around 6 to 8 months. I didn't last long. Unfortunately, it was very interesting. So I'm someone, as you can see, I like to talk. And where our tech support is in our area, you've seen it upstairs, right? It's open. As soon as I joined the team, everyone started to close their door because I was too loud. So they saw that I like to talk to people and I like to express how I feel. So, and I like also to share the energy. They were like, look, we can make good use of this in another role. So then there was an application engineer or sales engineer who which opened up. Went there, worked there for around 2 years and just grinding, just doing what we discussed before. I think they saw some potential. Doing sales and doing leadership and management is definitely two different things, right? You can be like a gun in selling, doesn't mean that you're like a great leader. And even for me, I'm still learning at this stage. And I got incredible mentors around me. I can't thank them. I think you know one of them is Linda, right? So she coached me, teach me how to deal with personalities, right? So many different people. And yeah, here we are after two. So I've been doing this for 3 years, 3 years now. Yeah, pretty happy, pretty stoked. A lot of responsibilities, but that's kind of my journey. Sorry for the long story of how it started.
I love it. So you kind of almost fell into sales. You were an engineer, and then was it you who was like, I want to work in sales, or did someone tap you on the shoulder and be like, you can sell. We could make use of it. Was there someone in the business that did that?
Mm, I wanted to basically the sales engineer role evolved a bit. I always, since day one, I said my number one goal is to become one of those because
Yeah.
one of the guy here was everyone wants to be like him. His name is Rod, big mentor, and I always wanted to be like him. But then the role changed. It went to more sales, and then I'm like, do I want to be sales or more technical? One of my mentor was basically explaining what is actually sales. I didn't really get it. I just like to
Yeah.
talk to people, right?
Yeah.
And then he explained, look, it's not just selling, just going and selling. There's like way more thinking behind it. And then I would say 5, 6 years ago, I just fell in love with it. And day in, day out, the guys can see the energy when we're discussing about sales topic. It's just, yeah, something which drives me a lot. But to answer your questions, I didn't really like fell into it, but it took a bit of time and trying a bit
Yeah.
of sales.
Yeah. Gotcha. Like looking back, you've obviously done fantastically well. You've progressed through the business. I think you mentioned you grafted hard. You had good work ethic, good attitude, probably a quick learner. What kind of, this is an opportunity for you to talk yourself up a little bit. What do you think you've done? What do you think you've done well that has allowed you to progress and go on the journey that you've done with the business?
Um, I think one of the difference is I know I will go back to this work ethics, but maybe something that I can elaborate quite a bit. Um, I'm I'm quite grateful to get all this experience from my parents. So just to give you a bit of background, my dad worked like he had his normal job and he also had like three side gig going along and nearly like 4 to 5 times a week, you know, no one was back home until 9 p.m. and he worked extremely hard so that my brother and sister can come to Australia to study. We I can tell you we were like a middle class family and he worked super hard. So I think I learned it quite a lot from him. And then my mom always gave me advice of how to deal with managers. She basically had to deal a lot with them and the way that managers work in back home and here, I can tell you it's different there. I hope there's not a lot of people who hear me from there, to be quite frank, but it's a very say, hey, I told you to do it, just do it, right? Again, putting a blanket on everyone, and apologies if I offend everyone, but anyone, but To be quite frank, you can see it is pretty common, right? In terms of management, where they say, hey, this is my vision. You need to do it. You need to do it like this. So I would say the work ethics, to go back to the topic, the work ethics that I had was, I think, quite of a different part. Understanding, I think, what the managers, anyone that I had to report to, understand what they mean, what they wanted exactly. I think also change a bit the game. So they don't need to explain everything in detail. They are like, okay, that's the plan. And then I ask you questions. Okay, let's work. I check with them. They are happy. If they're not happy, they tell me straight away. I think that was one of the difference. And I think finally, uh, maybe this will bring me down. I remember one mentor told me that, hey, this is not the best thing that you can do, but look, I need to be myself. I need to try. In any relationship that I've had, I always tell them, please tell me open book, tell me how you feel. If you think it's bad, just tell me, and I will do the same. Higher up, lower, I will tell you how I feel. And if we don't agree, in the end, whoever needs to make the decision will go with this. But please, let's stay 100% transparent. And that's one thing that I tried to do with my team. Again, some people say that it's not the best thing that you can do as a leader. For me, it worked until now. And I know it's not, let's say, the best world ever, because then they see you as you are, right? As I said, you're fully naked in a way. So if this works for you. But that's how I think those are the key points.
How important then has the role been of those mentors? You've mentioned it multiple times now, the people that have helped you out on the journey. It sounds like obviously your parents have instilled that work ethic in you, and then the mentors within Fronius that have helped you along the way. How important have they been, and in your eyes, what makes a good mentor? What if someone's looking to mentor someone, what should they be doing from in your opinion?
Wow. Maybe now I will be fully naked for you here. Um, maybe the first part which you asked me is if someone wants to be a mentor, right? Like what they should do. I feel I had this also happening to me. Someone wanted to be my mentor. I think a mentor can't really say, "Hey, I want to be your mentor." I don't think it happens like. I think it's reverse. Someone needs to want to come to you, right? And now I think I will just be 100% transparent with you. I had a lot of insecurities. I feel like within the last 5 to 6 years, so many things happen in my life, and mental health challenges, loneliness, and you know, I have such a high standard. I put pressure on myself. So all of those things just started to pile up. And I'm not someone who likes to read, unfortunately. So I was completely lost. I was just coming to work, push 100%, and that's it. Then through some friends, or one of my best friend, he also was having some challenges. And as men, sometimes we don't share how we feel. And funny enough, we have like the same types of hobbies, and he started to say to share some of his stuff. And then I was also reading online, even if I don't like to read, about like mental health for men, right? But they don't really like to share the suicide rate also, and all those things. And I started to reach out, started to ask questions. Some mentors gave me books to read. Some of them, I went open book with them. I told them, here, this is how I feel. And they started to give me some advice. Funny enough, also, not funny enough, but interesting part is I had a wide range of mentor, men, women. I think that's a good thing. If you have a mix, then you can really progress. So they really guided me. They knew where I was. I think they were there also. And sometimes as a leader, it can be lonely. And they gave me a lot of advice. So talking to people and trying some of those stuff that that those mentors did in the past. So, for example, I have one of my biggest mentor. he wanted to have like a sales strategy rolled out, and he was having a lot of challenges to get everyone to follow him. So for me, really understanding, okay, how is he executing the idea, and also what is the idea? And my takeaway, which I told him, I'm like, look, fantastic, fantastic if it is 10 of you doing the job, right? If it is basically 10 different people, it's going to be too hard. So I'm like, okay, I will try actually with my team and see what happens. And I had to edit it, even if it is not the perfect well. So I think to summarize it, you need people around you, right, who can help you go to where you want. And if you ask yourself, hey, right now, are those people going to help me? Are they bringing me down? Then maybe it's not the best circle, but yeah, definitely having those people are very, very important.
It sounds like a lot of them have come from or come from within Fronius as a company. You mentioned, there's you're like me, you're an expat living in Australia, away from your home where you grew up. There are times when, you mentioned if you were lonely or struggling outside of work, you went to work for, to escape that a little bit, and you went to there to help you as a solution. So it seems like Fronius, that it's almost that's your family away from your family. I feel like am I right there?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I can tell you when I asked my best friend told me one day, hey, you talk about Fronius a lot. I'm like, yes, it is definitely, definitely my family. But look, there's also people outside work, right?
Yeah.
You meet a lot of different people out there. I won't name them, or else some people will push those guys. Uh, but yeah, it's a range of people.
And staying with Fronius, obviously, we've talked about how that family feel to the business. I've been to your office. I felt it straight away when I was getting shown about and meeting the team. It was a really just a great feel to the office and a great let's say I know it's throwing a word that's thrown around a lot, but culture within the business. And it's something that I think a lot of businesses struggle to get right. That culture where people they enjoy coming to work, they're working hard, they've got a purpose without giving away all your secrets. What are Fronius doing that are made? Because you've also you've been there a long time. Linda's been there a long time. There's a lot of people who've stuck around. What are Fronius doing to keep employees happy and that really great family feel culture business?
Well, one thing that Prentice does really well is, as I said, sustainability, right? And I give you an example.
Sure.
One of the things that we put as a pillar for us is people. You need to invest in the people. If you just think about numbers, then yeah, nothing will happen. Or targets, nothing will happen. One thing that Linda does great, I think she's the best with people. When someone talk to her, I feel like it is as if it is a confidant, right? Or a friend in a way. So not spending time just with numbers, doing meetings, going out, but asking the people around here, how is everything going? But deeply, how is everything
Yeah.
going? Not just brushing up. Yeah, all right, mate, it's all good. Oh, what did you do this weekend? Oh yeah, I went to the beach. Oh, this is just on the surface.
Yeah.
Get to really know the people, the person. It's not meant for everyone, also, right? But
Yeah.
we got a good dynamics. The leadership is awesome from my perspective. Of course, maybe the other people at Fronius can also testify or share their opinion. But that's our views. There's a lot of things we still need to work on, but investing in those people,
Yeah.
getting them to grow, I think that's what's the difference
So
for us.
it starts from the top, right? It starts from the leaders, that culture.
Exactly.
That's kind of where I wanted to go with the conversation onto the topic of leadership, and just actually that question though. I think when you mentioned about asking someone new, how are you really doing? Like that's the best leadership, question. Or if you're in a one-on-one, if you're catching up with someone, that's to me that's the best leadership question you can ask. Not how's your pipeline, a casual how are you? It's how are you really doing? And I think is that a tactic you employ, by the way?
Before it was a tactic.
Mm.
Now it's more about something that I genuinely want to know because throughout my leadership style, I've learned different ways. And then one of the thing is we said as leaders is we need to make sure we care about the people. I'm like, okay, easy. I'm just gonna ask the question. But then what happens is it becomes repetitive. And then your team can see that you're not genuine. Whatever is not real, they see it. And then I'm like, nah, I'm gonna change it. And it will take time. I can't just say tomorrow I will really believe that those guys, hey, how are you doing this weekend? No. I heard like I'm not gonna go too much in specific, but I heard one of my colleagues had some challenges and of course I said, hey, how are you going? What do you think he said? I'm all right, all good. But then I'm like, okay, let's go. And this is the thing that I do with the team, that I enjoy. I said, let's go out, let's go for a walk, or let's go for lunch. Lunch on me. Let's have a chat. Work on the side. What's happening with you? What are the goals? You told me at the start of the year you had personal goals, and of course goals with work. How are you doing? And then from there, I start to build on this. The one thing that I realized, when you asked me to come on the podcast is to try to stay real with people. And that's one thing I wasn't sure as a leader. Should you tell everything to Joe about how you do things? I think I need to stay true even for with the guys. If I want to be 100% transparent, I will tell them how I feel, which is basically, at the start, yeah, maybe it was not 100% genuine. But now deep inside, I believe that I really care for those guys, like family.
It's that also that vulnerability piece, showing that you are not like invincible as well. If you kind of give off this facade that you're this leader who doesn't even have his own problems, then you're also not that relatable to your team. Like you've just said, there are you're there are things you're working on. There are struggles and challenges that you found. I think the fact that you have admitted that, and if anyone would listen to that, would go, yeah, of course, that's not understandable. And your team would relate to you a lot more, and then say, open up to you if they did have the problems, or they would be able to discuss more openly how they feel about things because they've seen you being vulnerable and sharing. And also, I think that example was great when you took someone out for lunch or something, like that. Just by it's like your actions actually define if you care or not. You can say, like you said, I can just ask how they're doing, but by doing something like that and asking specific examples about those personal goals, that's where that genuine genuine sort of caring comes from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you there. But one thing that I need to be also transparent with what I've learned is this also has a different side. When you're vulnerable, when they know everything about you,
Yeah.
they, how do I say this? They can also take advantage sometimes. So
Okay.
that's where it is a
There's a line.
relationship.
There's a line, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. So not going the extremes is very important. That's something that I've learned, and I'm pretty lucky. The guys that I work with, um, we have such a good relationship from again from my perspective, that we are open and we tell how we feel when we're crossing a bit this line.
Brilliant, mate. I love that. That's a really good takeaway there. So I want to get to maybe know outside of work a little bit. Um, what's Sebastian? What's he passionate about? What drives him? What are you into, say, outside of when you're not selling inverters?
Well, as I mentioned, I sell 24/7 now. Well, one thing that I like, I think I told you, with your podcast makes me remind myself of some podcasts from like globally, and you make me think about, I think it's Chris Williamson. I'm not sure if you know him. He's pretty famous also. Talks about
Modern Wisdom podcast.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
listened.
it's the I can see the style, the look. It's really the same. So I really enjoy listening to podcasts. So that's one thing. So anything which is personal development. On the side, I like sports. I think that's one of the things that maybe when someone asks you, hey, or what is Sebs like? It's basically yeah, doing sports. So I go to the gym practically nearly every day, unfortunately, and I play also a bit of futsal. I'm pretty passionate about it. I support Real Madrid, so for all Real Madrid fan. But I can see the face, right? I can see the face.
What a glory fan.
Well, well, it is the best team in the world, so it is, right? I will upset some people, but we can have a chat about this. But yeah, really, doing sport is kind of one important part of my life because people can say, "Hey, you're doing it to look better," or all of those things. But I was telling my brother actually, I do it for my mental health now. Before it was, don't get me wrong, to look good. Now it's basically for my mind. And actually this year I'm maybe by saying it to you, I will actually stick to the plan. I really want to do a marathon this year, so I'm trying to train for this at the moment, with work and trying to balance everything. Yeah, and
It's like
still,
it's like I'm the similar. I use it as like a exercise and sport as like a tool for other stuff. I used to do it to have a for the sort of vanity looks side of things,
mm,
but now I just use it as a tool to switch on in the morning, or to 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 push myself in other. Like I like running as well, and lifting weights like that. I use that as a tool to build resilience and to be, just to develop myself. Sounds like you're pretty similar on that front.
definitely. I think now the next part after the podcast is when are we working out or when are we going together? Is it the next step?
Yeah, mate. I'll help you out on the marathon training. We'll go on some runs.
Oh, okay, okay, sounds good. Sounds good, definitely.
Love it. So you mentioned about moving to Australia from Mauritius. How long ago was that? Maybe 10 years ago or so?
Yes, actually, nearly exactly like 10 years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah.
How do you look back on, say, that bloke 10 years ago to where you are now? Like, I guess you wouldn't have quite, I mean, you can never predict these things, but it's been quite, I guess you must be quite proud of what you've achieved in that 10 years.
Yeah. I think just after COVID, I think I took a big reflection because, as I mentioned, I'm someone who put like high standards, for me and then even for some team members. Um, and I spoke to my parents. I'm pretty sure you're similar. My parents are not getting any younger, right? And telling me like, hey, remember where you started, where you are at now. Make sure you always have this in the back of your mind, because all of this, it's basically you who did it, right? No one else. Of course, you have opportunities along the way. Just make sure you grab it. Mauritius is a very small country. Anyone who goes on holidays, of course, is the best thing ever. Hey, especially for honeymoon. So Joe, for your honeymoon, please let me know. I get you the good deals. Um, but it's been a heck of a ride. Just to give you a bit of background, also, in high school, I was not the best, to be quite frank. Very lazy. So when I saw what my friends were doing with their life, I think there was a click. I think you did also like GCE, HSC, right? You have the same format, right? Imagine all your friends getting good marks, and you're like, what the hell? Like, what's happening there? And of course, this was the baseline. Then I'm like, no, I need to put more effort into my work. It was a bit late, but still just on time. And when I moved to Australia, again, I had my brother here with me, with few aunties and uncles. Still, you need to start from ground zero, like nothing, and just put the hard work. I remember the late. I was working at Coles, on at the register. That was very, very interesting. Instead of putting me filling the shelf, they put me on the register. So working at Coles, walking there, at night at 12, and I'm like, hey, where am I gonna be in 10 years? And looking at where I am right now, pretty happy. Went to Europe, as you know, with work, of course. I'm traveling like across the country with work, so I'm very, very grateful for all the opportunities and everyone who came along the way, who helped me and who are still helping me at this stage.
I love I love the reflection side of that. But talking about we've talked about what you're doing at the moment. We've talked about where you've come from. What about the future? What do you? I know, not easy question to answer, but what does the future look like for you?
Well, for me, it's really building the team at the moment. As you know, we're recruiting, so really me getting out of like doing day-to-day activities, more looking at the bigger picture. So I always had to do both at the same time, which means that I need to sacrifice a bit everywhere. So now it's going to be more focused on the general sales strategies, what we need to do. Especially we have like EV, the EV market is booming in Australia. We have an EV charger coming. We have new product coming. How do we really look into this? And also the long-term term is how to make everything sustainable for us. On a personal side, I would say for me, really growing. One thing that I'm actually worried, which I discussed with Linda, is to get into my comfort zone and then think that I know everything. Because I was always this guy, hey, I want to learn from everyone. Like it can be anything, even from you. I'm not sure if I said this to you before, but the way you introduce your podcast, it's very specific. It's very nice. It's very entertaining. The voice, the tone, and all those things. I really want to learn e- everything about sales, how you talk to people. I know I'm doing quite a good job at the moment, but I really want to excel. So to summarize, I want to be an expert in terms of sales topic and in terms of leadership. That will be the two next thing for me.
Yeah, I love the like. Yeah, you're never finished. You're not. You know, I think as you say, you know, the moment if you when you get comfortable or you think you're that finished product is the moment you know you're liable, you know, likely to fail. So yeah, mate, I love the goals. Got one final question for you, and this is my typical closing question on the show, and you can take this whichever way you like. It's around the topic of success. What does success mean to you personally, professionally, um, whichever way you like?
Mm, yeah, good one, good one. Within the next last few months for me, you know, a lot of things is happening in the world. One of the big topic is being financially free, right? That's something that I guess I'm working towards too, right? You want to also enjoy life a bit, so that's an area that I'm focusing, and I feel like you don't need to worry about money anymore, that's a good thing. The second thing will be my family, healthy family. Again, it's not really under your control, but I think that's kind of successful if everyone is doing well. That's pretty good. And the last part is, you know, in life, what I've learned with friends and discussing, it's never just going up or just going down, right? It's like a heartbeat going up and down, up and down. And in my head, I always want to be happy, but it's not possible. So one thing is to genuinely enjoy the ride, and if you enjoy the ride, you will be a bit more happy. And that's how I would say I would rate how successful I am in life. It's not my title, it's not all of those things. It's how how uh, how well am I enjoying the ride at the moment.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's like success is being okay when things don't go to plan. You know, it's weird. It's
Yes.
like it's a little bit backwards. It's like because if you want things to go well all the time, they don't. So it's impossible. So yeah, just being okay with it when things don't go to plan. Then that's success to me and you. So mate, love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really enjoyed that chat. Heaps of wisdom shared there. I'm gonna be listening back to that for sure. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that. So, Sebastian, thank you very much.
Pleasure, Drew. Thanks for having me.